Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in today's video what we're going to be doing is this right here. So if that looks exciting to you guys, please carry on and watch the video. Oh, and just one more thing before we go. Please consider like, commenting, and subscribing if you enjoyed the video. But now with all that out of the way, let's carry on with the video. Okay, so to start off our miniature here, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be mixing three colours together. So basalt grey, burnt flesh, and base flesh. And we're going to be mixing them all together to create a dark skin tone. Now this will vary. I used, I think, 2 drops of each of the skin colours and then 1 drop of the basalt grey to get the skin tone. But you might just have to play around with it a little to see what you want to get here for this. And then of course we just want to be painting all over anywhere we have any exposed flesh to be giving that nice color that we've just created here on the miniature. And of course with these wizkids miniatures is they're already pre-primed, so we don't have to worry about that step as well, and just giving a nice overall coverage to everywhere we can see the skin. Then once we have our skin complete, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some dark sea grey. And I'm going to be grabbing a nice big wide brush for this because we're going to be using it to be painting her nice cape slash cloak that she has covering her. So we want to make sure we get a good coverage with the whole thing of this, because there is a lot of sculpted detail into the miniature, as the cloak does have a bit of a pattern on it. So we want to make sure we definitely get in between all those little sculpted details. And of course I'm using a nice big brush to get this done a little bit quicker than using an ordinary brush for this as well. Then once we have her cape painted up, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some kantor blue. And we're going to be using this kantor blue to be painting up her main part of her clothing, which is this here, which also leads up to her neck area as well. So don't forget to do that little bit of area. And we're just painting on the inside here. We want to be avoiding this trim, as you can see here, because we want to be doing that in another color. We just want to be doing the base part of her dress and underclothing with this nice blue here, and giving a good overall coverage of the miniature. Then once we've got that blue on there, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some stonewall grey. And for this, we're going to be using that trim that I said we wanted to avoid before. So that's why we wanted to keep the spillage down to a minimum, but as you can see I have definitely spilled over those edges as well, but it's no problem there. All we need to do is place a little bit extra layer of paint to get rid of that, and stonewall grey is going to help complement that nice blue that we want in there as well. So just being careful to avoid anywhere else that we don't want it to be, and we're just focusing on that trimmed area. Then once we have that trim of her dress all nicely picked out, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some pale blue. And for the pale blue, we're going to be using it for her nice sort of really spiky pauldron she has on her. I'm doing it more as it's sort of like ice shards or crystal shards popping out. It's just a cool design flair, and I think giving it that crystalline slash ice type effect, pale blue is going to be a good base for this part. Then once we have that part completed, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some gunmetal. And there's only one part we're going to be doing on the metal here, and that is going to be her nice big breastplate that she has on her. We want to be just doing that in the gunmetal, giving that nice dark metal color to good starting base to work from. And as you can see here, it has a lot of sort of design elements into the miniature, as well as these hard angles, so you're going to have to spend a little bit of time getting in between all those areas and making sure we've got a nice overall coverage. Then once we have that completed, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to come in now with some weapon bronze. And the weapon bronze we're going to be using for all her stylish sort of flashings, and we're also going to be using it on her bits of leg armor as well. So she has these nice details on her, which are nice metallic sort of jewelry, and as well as that I'm also going to be painting up her leg braces as well in the same color. So don't be afraid. Now it will get a little bit harder to do, especially around the hands and the arms that we can see here, as well as the bit of jewelry she has on the face. So switch to a smaller brush if you need to pick out these details, and just really take your time, because there is a lot of it on this miniature. So we want to be very careful and very precise when we're picking out these spots. And you also will probably need to do 2 coats of this as well. Then once we have all her jewelry picked out, what I'm going to be doing now is coming in with some ivory, and I'm going to be, of course, using the ivory to be picking out her eyes. Now this will probably take a few layers because she has some nice dark skin and we're using a really bright color. But ivory I found is quite a good color to go over with the eyes here, and you can see I'm using a very fine tip brush so I can really get into the nicely sculpted detail onto the eye. And we're just going to be leaving the eyes white here because I want it to have that she's using her magical power like she has in her hand, really brightening up her eyes, so we don't have to worry about pupils for this miniature as well. And now with her eyes complete, what we're going to be doing is we're coming in with some dark sea grey and some ivory. We're just going to be mixing it in sort of roughly 50-50. And what we're going to be doing is we want to be picking out the highest raise points on her cape here. And you can see there is a lot sculpted into this because it's supposed to be, you know, blowing in the wind as she's flying. So we want to be picking out all these really high points here. And you want to progressively be using a little bit more ivory to every little bit of step up with each point of the highlight, so we've got a nice overall effect, and you can see the difference between our highlight and our base color. Then once we have those highlights all picked out, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be coming in with some blue tone and just a little bit of contrast medium, or I mean you can also use water for this as well, just to thin down that blue tone just a little bit. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be covering over everywhere of her dress, as well as the little bit of skirt she has in front of her. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but when we were painting up the eyes, I also painted up the front little part of her skirt as well in the ivory. So don't forget to do that too. I'm not sure if I mentioned it or if I even filmed that bit, so I'm sorry if I haven't. But we've also painted that in the ivory, and we also want to go over it in the blue tone as well. Now you can see everything's turned a nice shade of blue. What we're going to be doing now is coming in with some nuln oil, and of course we're going to be using this over our metallic here, but I'm not going to be using it over all the metallics. I'm only going to be using it over her armor, all her jewelry, and little bits of flash with the bronze there. We also want to leave alone as well, and of course I'm going to be doing the cape as well in the nuln oil. So you can see here that when I'm going over the cape in the nuln oil, I'm using a lot fatter brush, and I'm really giving it some nice overall coverage on her cloak. And you can see that it's really bringing out all those nice sculpted bits of detail with the sort of design she has on her cloak. But we're going to have to be very, very careful to avoid the pooling here. It is going to pool a lot with the amount of wash we're going to be using. So you're going to have to be very sort of vigilant and aware while this is drying. And now with all that completely dry, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some Reikland Flesh Shade. And with the Reikland Flesh Shade, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using it to be covering all of her jewelry and her nice leg banding she has on here. And with that reddish tone in the Flesh Shade, it's going to really help amplify that bronze to another level. Because I didn't want to just have it completely darkened down with the nuln oil, which I would usually do over metallics. I want to really bring this out a little bit, and then it is some sort of flash blingy jewelry, so the Flesh Shade's going to help with that a lot easier than with the nuln oil. Now with her jewelry all dry, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some Agrax Earthshade. And with the Agrax Earthshade, I'm going to be using it on her skin. I'm not going to be using flesh tone on her skin, which is what I would usually use on a skin color, because I don't want that reddish hue that the Flesh Wash has in it. The Flesh Wash has sort of a reddish hue in the wash. I want to keep her skin nice and dark and brown, and keep it sort of not blending in with the metallic that we've already just used on her jewelry. So the Agrax Earthshade is going to help intensify that sort of brown color she has on her skin, and really hopefully tie it all together nicely, so we've got some nice bits of separation rather than having it sort of blend in with one another. So again, just being very careful to avoid covering up any areas where we don't want that wash to be. And now with her skin all complete, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to come back in with some ivory, and we're going to be using it to tediously paint in the raised areas of this nice front part of the skirt that we have here, that we placed the blue wash over top of. I want the tops of those folds to be white. I want it to read as white with sort of some blue under tones and darkness, rather than it being blue washed over it. So just going to take a little bit of time here and paint all of those nice raised details, and just keep the blue into those recesses. Then once we have all that completed, what we're going to do now is coming back in with the stonewall grey, and we're going to be doing another tedious step here. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the trim again, but this time we're going to be carefully just placing it on top and avoiding the recesses of the skirts, as she has a nice runic pattern in that nice trim. So what we want to be doing is amplifying that so we can really see the difference there, and we just want the blue wash in those recesses. So you're going to have to paint the whole top with all the areas where don't have a runes. This will take a little bit of time, and especially it's going to be a little bit difficult because the runes are very scribbly and all over the place, but once it's done, it's going to look really, really nice. Then once you have all her runes picked out, we're going to come back in with some ivory now, and all we're going to be doing is we're just going to be giving some highlights to all the edges of that nice spiky pauldron she has on here to give it that true sort of crystalline look or ice sort of formed look, whatever you want it to be, with our nice blue here. And going over each edge is going to really help sell the effect. These are crystals or ice or whatever you're preferring at this stage. I think they're sort of more of a crystal myself, but we just want to make sure we get all of those edges. Then once we have all those edges picked out, what we're going to do now is come in with some chainmail metal, and of course we want to use it on the edges of our breastplate that she has on her. So again, nice sharp angular pieces. So it's actually, this miniature is quite good for picking out highlights, as there is a lot of sharp high points and angles on the miniature. So it's really good practice if you want to practice your highlighting. I'm still definitely practicing my highlighting, so this is great for me. And I know it'd be great for you too if you want to do it for a similar thing, but it's also a great model. So again, just picking out all these nice little raised highlight areas. And then once we have that done, it's time to move on to magical effects. And using some contrast paint here, we're going to use some iyanden yellow, and we're going to be using it to be placing it just on the areas of these nice magical spheres she has on the end of her hand. So all we're going to be doing is just dotting them in, and you can see my great camera work here, so you can really see what I'm doing. We're just dotting it in, just focusing on those spherical areas. Now this may take a couple of layers here. As you can see, it's very translucent and acts like a wash, especially onto this clear plastic. So don't be afraid to sit there, just watch it, wick up any of those spotting areas and add on a couple more layers. It'll still keep that translucent effect, but we'll have a bit more brightness in the color. And now we have that magical effect complete. It's time to move on to our last magical effect. And using some apothecary white contrast paint again, we're going to be using all the cloud and the mist all for this area. So there's quite a few areas of this. We've got it on the top of her chest here, her hair, her hand, which is levitating these magical orbs, and as well just down by her feet as well. We want to be giving a good coverage in this apothecary white. Now I know it doesn't seem like much now, it looks like I'm just sort of putting a bit of sludge on there, but we're going to wait for that to dry and add on just a couple of layers, probably 2, maybe 3 at most, and it's really going to sell the effect. The apothecary white's really going to start working its magic and really start making it look like there are nice bits of mist and cloud, giving off the effect and keeping the translucency of these miniatures that they have here. And with all that complete, we have finally finished painting up our female cloud giant from the Dungeons & Dragons wizkids range. And I hope with adding in all those nice spell effects and that cool bit of color in there with her jewelry, we've really given her that nice regal appearance that she deserves. So I hope this has been helpful for you guys, whether you guys want to follow along or you just enjoy watching me paint up some cool miniatures. But I'd like to thank you all again for watching, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video.